In London, technology is the Silicon Roundabout. Introducing a new talk show dedicated to the people of the London technology startup scene. Silicon Real. Each week, interviewing entrepreneurs, venture capitalists, financial technology, accelerators, and incubators in an exciting three-person format. Learn about the people behind the innovation. Locally filmed, locally sourced. Silicon Real. It's about the people. This is Silicon Real, the weekly talk show dedicated to the people of the London technology startup scene. I am Brian Rose. I also host London Real. It's the same studio, same mics, same chairs, but we have some crazy people in here. Like we had Tim Ferriss, we had Neil deGrasse Tyson, we've had Max Kaiser from Russia Today talking about Bitcoin, all sorts of good stuff. We've just hit episode like 150. So go check that out at londonreal.tv. You can actually search by like martial arts or by like fitness and all that stuff. So check that out. But today we're here to talk tech. My co-host is none other than Colin Pyle, entrepreneur, running coffee companies. What's going on?
Super busy. We're at Grand Designs Live this past week.
What is that?
Grand Designs Live is, it's at the Excel Center, which I'd never been to before.
Oh, yeah. It's
massive,
huge. Right?
It's enormous.
Out by London City Airport.
Yeah, it's like really far if you live west. So, but yeah, you can really buy anything, buy kitchens, buy, backyard patio sets. It's for, people looking to decorate their home and nice stuff. So kind of our markets, we got a little coffee stand and yeah, it's good, man. It's you meeting customers and meeting people. Lots of customer service feedback. It's amazing how terrified people are outside of the tech scene of people screwing them over.
Oh, really?
You know what I mean? We're taking like this nice, friendly approach, subscription, cancel anytime you want. And everyone is just so afraid of the word subscription.
Oh, right.
You're just gonna.
You got to ease them in. But once you get them hooked, then they're subbed forever, right?
Yeah, it's good. But again, our target audience too. A lot of our audience is about older than 50, so they've been screwed over by a gym or a phone, and so they don't get that. Like the new way of doing business.
Yeah, it's always old people. Nice. When I talk to my parents, they're like, I don't give my credit card out to them. Well, you talk to like a younger person, they're like, I give it to everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
And actually, if you look at MasterCard and Visa, like you're protected in a huge way, like from any like major losses. I've had my card number printed like online before and like nothing ever happened. So anyways, all right, keep us posted on that.
Things are well.
On with the show. Our guest today is Clare Sutcliffe, who is the co-founder and CEO at Code Club, a nationwide network of, as I count, 2,276 after-school coding clubs for children aged 9 to 11. You guys launched in April 2012. I think you want children to learn to program, but you also want them to learn about computational thinking, problem solving, planning, designing, and collaboration. Clare, welcome to Silicon Real.
Thank you. You just did my job for me.
You like that, right?
Not bad.
I like to get people out there so people know who they're talking to, as opposed to make it too mysterious. But we met you almost a year ago. We were at like our first or second Silicon Drink About. We had just asked Benjamin Southworth to be on our show, and he was like, yes. And he was at, Tech City at the time. And then we just started talking to you, and we're like, wow, this girl is super cool. She's doing this cool thing. And we were both struck by how friendly and welcoming the tech scene is here in London. We just had Andy McLaughlin, the co-founder of Huddle, on last week, and he just tweeted out an article about a company that moved from San Francisco to London because like everyone's trying to help each other out. And it was just cool to meet all these cool vibey people that, I don't know, we're just so positive. So it's been 45 episodes later, but it was a great, way to introduce the scene, meeting people like you. So thanks for the warm energy.
You're welcome.
You kind of made this happen.
Yeah. No, it's a year ago, and we remember meeting you. That's how friendly you were.
I remember it too.
There we go.
I hope it was good. Yeah, I think the scene was a little bit like, who are these guys? But I think now
I was having like a hay fever attack. I remember.
Oh, yeah, probably thought you were weird.
I think it was by Hoxton Station, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was outside. It was at some gallery, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was over there. Yeah. For the people that don't know much about Code Club, I was wondering if you could tell us kind of how it started, a bit of the background. I was watching that crazy YouTube video you did 2 years ago with Tim Berners-Lee and Chad Hurley and Prince Andrew. Did you watch that thing?
No.
It's like all these people are they're being interviewed by like 3 kind of Code Club kids to see if they're worthy of the Code Club.
Yeah.
And they're just grilling them. And the guy, Chad Hurley's like, I invented YouTube. And then one of the kids is like, oh, you mean the video where the guy did that? And he's like, no, I invented YouTube. And they're just cutting him off. Was that video your idea? And then can you tell us about Code Club?
That video wasn't my idea. The idea actually came from going to Founders Forum. Do you know Founders Forum?
I've heard of it, but I haven't been.
Okay, it's a conference for tech entrepreneurs that happens in Watford every June. And at the time that I started Co-Club with Linda, my co-founder, I was working at Albion advertising agency.
Right, which is where Bryce works. Bryce does Albion Drive, which is the PR version of that.
Yeah, right. So I left just before Bryce arrived.
Okay, we had Jason Goodman on here. So.
Yeah, so Jason was my boss.
Okay.
Right? And I told them that I'd done Code Club, that I'd launched Code Club, and they were like, oh my God, that's cool. How can we help? And they've been incredibly supportive. And I was there for quite a while when I first started, stayed at Albion for quite a while. And they said, well, we've got this amazing opportunity. Would you like to go to Founders Forum and make a film? Because they make a film every year, but they want to make a film for someone that's kind of like a cause that's worthy. And we'll take, a set of creative writers and a production team, and we'll take kids and props, and then we'll ask the delegates to think of the idea for the film themselves. So I briefed all the delegates of the conference, like what we need, and what we needed was a video that would ideally be viral and that would explain the idea of Code Club, ideally in a funny way. And we explained we have kids and props, and and you've got 45 minutes, and then we had them pitch their ideas back to us afterwards, and there were grown men jumping on tables trying to get their idea across to us. It was amazing. I can't remember who won in the end. I think it might have been Fred Destin's team, but it was their idea, and then we had our writers write the jokes for all the different people that you see in the film, and then we spent all day tapping them on the shoulder and getting them to come in and film. It was brilliant. It was so
you shot
fun.
it that day of the Founders Forum?
Yeah, we shot it at Founders Forum, and we edited it during the day, and then we showed them what was meant to be the final cut, just before they had dinner, and then we recut it in the morning and then sent it out again the next day, and then 600,000 people watched it. So yeah, it was really cool.
It's huge.
And check that out.
Yeah, it's really good. And they were all game for it? They were all okay?
Yeah, we actually filmed 14 people, but we could only fit those ones, and they were the funniest. But some of the jokes were really funny when they were written down, and then when they filmed didn't quite work so well. Right, I'm not going to tell you who didn't make the cut.
Because they're not comedians, but Prince Andrew was there, and at the very end they're like, and what do you bring to the table? And he was like, my mum.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah,
he wrote that himself.
He did.
Did he?
It was nice.
Yeah,
and with the founder, that's Brent Hoberman.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
I placed it. God, I wasn't sure what that was.
Yeah. And then we went back again last year and launched Code Club World. So
nice.
They're big friends.
So Code Club is 2 years old, or a little more than 2 years old?
Code Club is 2 years and 1 month old.
And how did it start, and how did you get to where you are now?
It started when I met Linda Sandvik, who's my co-founder. We met at a web design conference in Nottingham. We went to the pub, which is where all good ideas start.
Mm-hmm. In England is where everything starts.
Yeah, pretty much.
The Crusades.
Relationships, everything. Education programs, yeah. And we had the idea for Code Club, and we thought that's a fairly simple idea. We know lots of programmers between us. I was a user experience designer. She still is a programmer, working for freelance clients. And we thought, we know lots of people that know how to program. We could ask them to go to schools, and we started thinking, what are the barriers that stop people going to do that already? And it became very apparent that creating materials, creating projects for the children to work on would be really time consuming for one person to do, and then that would be then magnified by every club that you wanted to set up. So really we'd have to create all the materials and all the guidance so that it would be easily replicable by anybody with enough programming knowledge to run the projects for the children. So we got a team together. We put our first website out. It was just a one-page website, and we tweeted that an exciting thing was happening and we were launching this thing, and it went pretty crazy. And then the next day I was doing interviews on the BBC and stuff about it, and we were on Wired, and
literally the next day.
Yeah, the actual next day. So I was walking around in the corridor outside Albion doing interviews on the BBC, which was fun but unexpected.
How did they find out about you so fast?
Twitter.
You were just tweeting
We only
at them?
tweeted.
That's it?
No, we didn't do. We just tweeted once, and then it just went around.
It's like every startup's
really
dream.
Fast. Yeah, it was a bit.
It's interesting though, because if you go to the Code Club site, you go maybe there to find a Code Club for your kid, but from the very beginning, it almost pitches you to start your Code Club. So there's a kind of weird viral design, which I don't know if you intended to do, but obviously it worked, to where it just kind of, you made it scale itself, right?
Yeah, and it kind of, the idea of Code Club is that it works both ways. Well, at least the site does, right? So we want venues to find volunteers by reaching out to their community, but we also want volunteers to reach out to venues within their local community so that there would be more matches, is the idea.
That's pretty smart.
So.
Was that from the beginning? You thought this is the way we can do this? So this is the only way?
Well, the first site didn't have any of that stuff. All it had was a MailChimp list, which got out of hand pretty quickly. We had 2,000 people sign up in 2 months to say that they wanted to volunteer, which was actually fairly terrifying when that happened.
Because you got to vet all these people too, presumably. If they're
we don't vet them for their knowledge.
Okay.
We
CRB check them.
We don't do that, but they have to have one to start a club, so we check that they have that.
Yeah.
But there are other agencies that do that. Yeah.
And why was it 9 to 11-year-olds, and why kids? Why kids in the beginning? Why did that appeal to you?
Why kids in the beginning? I think the earlier you start, the better. You can pique a child's interest without making it boring, then I think you're onto a winner. 9 to 11 was because we thought we had to start with a particular age group, because children are so different as they move through the ages. They're capable of more or less depending on how old they are, and they've already learnt certain things. So if we went any younger than 9, we'd have problems with literacy and with maths. So we based our projects on a standard level in the UK. And if you go any older than 11, they're at secondary school. So you would actually have to have 2 separate clubs. And we thought, as a starting point, we need to pick an age group. So we went for 9 to 11.
And you've been happy just to keep it in that group?
Yes, we have been, but we are opening it up fairly soon. We'd like to take the 9 to 11 label off and make it more about levels of experience rather than particular ages, and then kind of use notes to guide what ages might be applicable, might be most appropriate for the different sets of projects. But we would like to do projects that are more appropriate for younger, or even younger and unexperienced kids, as well as older as well, and more advanced work as well.
Okay.
And all in good time.
Yeah, I think it's very important to have a very specific target in the beginning for any startup, and not go too crazy. 9 to 18, I mean, Jesus.
Yeah.
So can you talk about the first year and then the second year? You talked about Code Club Plus or Code Club something else that happened within a year. I know with Google you have Code Club Pro or something that they sponsored. Mm-hmm. Can you walk us through what happened?
Yeah, so Code Club grew very quickly in its first year, and in the UK does continue to do so. And we had a lot of emails from people saying, when are you going to come and start Code Club in my country? And I was like, clearly not. I'm very busy. But we also had emails from people saying, when can I start Code Club in my country? And that's a lot more interesting. So I thought, as a team, we thought, how can we enable those people to run a Code Club organisation in their own country, supporting their own local volunteers, hosting their own meetups, managing their own website, registering volunteers, and do the same as we do here in the UK, but in a more culturally sensitive way. Because obviously we don't know how other countries work, and it's better if it's done by people who live there, right, with their own interests at heart. And so we set up Code Club World, which was to do exactly that, which was to build a framework that would allow other people to start Code Club organisations where they live. And that was in June last year. And we kind of let that fly, and then let it be. To see what would happen, and also because we were still really, really busy on Code Club UK. But what happened was 2 different things. First of all, clubs just organically popped up around the world, and there are about 250 clubs approximately outside of the UK.
Code clubs?
Code clubs, yeah.
Wow.
But then the other thing that we wanted to happen, because we wanted both of these things to happen, just individual clubs, and we wanted people to start building communities. So in Brazil, there's a group of 3 or 4 guys who are, proactively going out, recruiting volunteers and supporting them. And that's why Brazil has about 35 clubs now. So in the States, there's 50 clubs, but there's no one coordinating them, and obviously kind of a lot more people.
Yeah.
And are they really associated with you at that stage? Like, are they in touch with you getting new material and stuff like that?
Yeah, so they're in touch with us. They've translated our materials.
Right.
All of our materials are on GitHub. All the translations are there as well, and they're all...
so they don't just take the name and then run with it?
No, they use our name. I have like Skype calls with them every month. Cool. And the same for... there's a community in Ukraine, and they have... quite a few clubs, I can't remember now, about 20, 25 clubs. And pilots have just started in Australia and New Zealand. There's a community in Catalonia and one in Norway. And there's lots of interest from countries all around the world in setting up communities, and they're at various levels of progress at the moment.
Why do you think you've been so successful with this, like sprouting up all over the world, but like you said, different cultures and different languages? I mean, why you guys?
I don't know why us guys, but I think that people like the idea because it's nice and simple, and they can see that it's easily scalable, because we've already proved that, at least to a certain extent anyway. But it's also really easily replicable, because the idea of someone with knowledge going to teach a group of people with less knowledge is a really, really simple idea, and that's what it boils down to, right? So a programmer going to a school that has computers and children and delivering a code club, as long as those ingredients exist, that can happen anywhere. And there are variations on that theme. So I met a lady from Calgary in Canada, and she said that the idea of having after-school clubs in the school, and not like after the kids have gone home, had dinner, then they go to their club, would be weird. But the library network is where a lot of clubs happen. So instead of having it in schools, she wants to do Code Club Canada, but using the library network. And so there are variations, but the basis stays the same. Well, right, they need a new purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a really good new way of
using
them. And we have code clubs running in the UK in libraries as well.
And how was your growth in the UK? I mean, did that happen really fast? Did you need to leave your job soon? And like, what were some of your milestones, in the UK, like, for the first year and the second year?
Well, we did a pilot with 25 clubs, but then we started our first sort of official kind of academic year in September of 2012 with 120, and it grew really steadily by 100 new clubs a month until 3 months ago, when it was noted that it was at 200 new clubs a month. And it's just dropped a bit because we just put all our projects online, and I think that people were registering a bit just to get hold of the materials and stuff, which was unnecessary. So we were like, well, you can just have them. You don't have to register to start a club. Like, here you go. But if you're running a club, you still have to register and have your DBS and all that kind of safety stuff.
And at this rate, you're going to be in 25% of the schools by like 2015?
That's our target, yeah.
That's a lot. Is it just me? That's a lot of schools. Yeah. And that's really fast growth.
It is a lot.
25% of any market is, let alone the whole UK. That's amazing.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see, because we've only been going like such a short amount of time, like how long the clubs continue for and what the churn rate is, and we're only just starting to be able to investigate that.
Right.
But it'd be interesting to see how long people carry on for.
Right. Do you get a lot of flakiness? Like people are like, oh, this is a great idea, and I'm going to do it, and then they do it once and just drop the ball.
I don't think so. No. All the anecdotal evidence I have tells me that people stay for at least a term. Okay. And we do ask that people stay for at least a term.
Is that the instructors or the students?
The volunteers. Yeah. So the children, and I have to generalize whenever I talk about this because it's different at every school, but the children tend to stay mainly because they'll have been chosen from a long list of kids who wanted to join in the first place, and they'll have been asked to make a commitment to stay. And they have to really be like, actually, I'm just really not interested. And that's fine, obviously, it's not for everybody. But the clubs tend to be so oversubscribed that the teacher has to choose somehow a list of kids to
And do the kids pay, or it's completely free?
No, it's all completely free. And the schools don't pay either.
So the kids don't pay, the volunteers volunteer their time.
Yeah.
And you guys do this through donations and sponsorship?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And what's been the biggest challenge for you, say, in the last 12 months?
For Code Club?
Yeah. Or was it just so easy?
It's not. It's not.
One
easy.
tweet.
Usually when things look
exactly.
easy, it's just not.
Yeah,
that's
no.
what I've learned.
Yeah. What's been the biggest challenge? Getting the ball rolling on funding was really difficult, mainly because I'd never done any fundraising before ever. But now that's going okay. I've learned to write grant proposals and how to manage corporate sponsors effectively, and that's going really well.
What is your breakdown, like corporate grants? And is there other money? Is there Kickstarter money or people like consumers that
philanthropic checks? Maybe are there any like, big tech guys to help fund something? This is an incredible opportunity for.
They've all been like either corporations or grants.
Okay.
Though like one of our most recent grants was funded by the Cabinet Office, so I guess that's government funding, right? But the others are all like different funds from Nominet and Nesta, who are, I don't know if you know who they are.
No.
They're the kind of people that fund people like us, not-for-profits and social enterprises, for various different things, depending on what the fund is. And the others are corporate sponsors like Arm and Samsung. Arm were the first people to come to us and say, how can we help you? And I was like, oh my God,
nice
it's
to
amazing.
Calls, right?
Yeah, that was a good,
publicly traded company. That works.
Yeah, that was a really good email to get. And they have continued to support us since then. And they also support Co-Club World as well, and Co-Club Pro.
Because Google gave you some money for Code Club Pro.
Yeah.
A couple months ago, you were in the news. What is Code Club Pro?
I know. The C button on my computer runs out. I have to replace it.
Pro.
And why did they get involved at this point? Why did Google get involved?
So Code Club Pro is where we use our volunteers, we pay them this time, to go into primary schools and teach teachers just enough for them to be able to deliver the new computing curriculum, which comes into effect in September this year.
Okay. This is a nationwide curriculum that they have to be ready for?
Yeah. Ideally, they would be ready. If they're not ready, they have to prepare to get ready, even after it started. Like, they have to do something about it unless they're experts already, in which case that's cool.
So there's thousands of teachers out there that really need help.
Yeah, hundreds of thousands of teachers.
A bit of extra help.
Yeah, so at primary school you tend to teach every subject. Each teacher teaches every subject, but throughout the year. And you'll have a coordinator who might disseminate information and stuff. But generally most teachers need a good founding of knowledge on every subject. So if you imagine how many schools there are, and let's say it's about 20,000 primary schools, and then you'll have a faculty of like a sort of a minimum of 6 teachers, and that's like in the tiniest schools, up to kind of 30 teachers. That's a lot of people to train.
So teachers must be scared of having to teach code, I'm guessing.
Yes, they are scared.
How do you get them over that?
And they feel very put upon as well, because they've been asked to teach something that they generally have no experience of, and you have to be really sympathetic to that point of view. They're already overworked as it is, and now they've been asked to teach something that they don't have an experience of. So we're trying to offer our help as cheaply and as flexibly as possible, and give them enough confidence so that they feel like, actually, I can teach this, and I know where to go and look to find more information. And now I have a whole alumni of people that have been through Code Club Pro training as well, and I can talk to them about how are they finding teaching computing, the various different key stages as well. So.
Who pushed through this new curriculum that's coming out in September of this year? Is this something that's been building? Was it Tech City pushing this? I guess it wasn't. Or was this something that the UK is long due for, in your opinion?
I think there has been lobbying for change for a while. I don't know the details on that. Code Club's always sat quite firmly outside of the curriculum. We're sort of aware of what was in it, but we weren't pushing for any change, because we like our code clubs to be after school and creative and not part of a normal school thing, and we still want that to happen. But when we saw that it had changed and how teachers were really worried, and we thought, well, we have the resource to be able to help with this, as in we have the idea and we have access to people who we already know want to pass on their knowledge, and so we needed a bit of a funding kickstart and we told Google about our idea, and they thought, yeah, we want to help you do that.
That must feel good.
That was cool.
Good to have corporates writing checks, with that.
Yeah.
Benjamin Southwood was here a couple weeks ago, and he had just, he commented on something, because I know Joanna Lowenstein had said, okay, people shouldn't learn French, they should learn code. And then Ben was like, no, they shouldn't replace a language with code. And I was just wondering, I think tech people, when they hear Code Club, they're like, yeah, I want my kids doing this. But I'm wondering, what would you tell a non-tech parent as to a reason why their child should learn to code?
I would probably want to find out like what their kid is into, because if I'm going to convince that one parent, then I want to know what their kid's into.
Do you think all
first.
kids should learn how to code? Do you think it should be like a language, or something they learn like as a natural thing?
Yeah, I think they should all be given the opportunity and then take it as far as they want. So it's different for different kids, right? So some kids will learn to code and it will affect their other studies positively. So we have a lot of anecdotes from teachers saying how kids that start going to Code Club look at problem solving differently and are able to see failure as a part of learning rather than just, I have failed, therefore I will stop.
Right, because when your code doesn't work, it's easy. Once that happens a bunch of times, you don't take it as personally, do you?
No,
because just the
you
program
just have to keep
work.
going until you fixed it, right? And that's a really interesting development to see. But that's not... that's something that will stand that child in good stead, whether they go on to be a programmer or not, right? So creative problem solving is a useful skill in any job, I could wager. And so are lots of other skills that you learn whilst you learn to program. So even if a child doesn't go on to become a programmer, then I think they've learned lots of other skills in the meantime that are invaluable. So that's what I would tell a non-techie parent.
And are the parents pushing their kids into this, or are the kids like lining up being like, Mom, I want to go and do this?
We try and tell the kids first so that we have like genuine kid enthusiasm, not a parent who wants childcare,
right? Because
that's not what we're here for. But we do have a lot of parents saying, oh, I think my son would love this, or I would really like it if my son liked this. But I mean, I think if you push people into it, it's less fun, isn't it? So it has to be kind of self-chosen. But what we try and do is make it as accessible as possible and make it like not seem intimidating. And we don't talk about gender, so we don't say, and it's for girls too, because then the girls are like, of course it is. Why would it not be? And then they start thinking, oh, yeah, maybe I shouldn't be there. So we have a really good gender split. So we have like 40% girls in the clubs at the moment. Obviously aiming for 50.
you say you're oversubscribed. So in choosing who goes, are you very much sort of trying to have an even balance there?
So we don't choose which kids go in the clubs. That's very much up to the school.
Okay.
But we obviously they're trying to choose a good mix, but they also want to choose the children who'll get the most out of it. That doesn't necessarily mean the brightest kids, but we really let the schools choose who goes in the club. When I say we're oversubscribed, it comes from like time and time, having heard the story that a volunteer will go into a school, deliver an assembly about Code Club, and they'll be really nervous as well, right? Which is quite cute. They're like, oh my God, children. Actually, they're quite frightening children now. Anyway, like 150
they see through
children.
all your bullshit children do.
When I talk at schools,
it's really scary, but they're cute, so we forgive them. And they explain like what programming is and who knows how like apps got on the iPhone and do you want to make games and stuff. And then they're like, yeah, of course we do. And then they say, right, well, this is what we're going to do in Code Club. Who wants to come? And then every single hand goes up, or, the majority, and you've only got 15 spaces, then that's a lot of disappointed children. And so some schools end up running like a club, and then they run the same term over again for another set of kids, and then again. And then the next year they run term 2, so they don't get any further than term 2, but at least they're giving more children like a taster of the club and that kind of thing. And some schools just run the same group all the way through. So, but we try and keep it flexible because you can't control how schools work anyway.
Yeah, I have a 10-year-old girl, and she would obviously love to do this. I remember I checked right away when I heard about you guys, and it was great because it was like, why don't you teach the class? That's what the Code Club website says. It's kind of like, all right, there's not one in your school, but there's one here. You could start one here kind of thing. But I'm curious, what would she be learning like the first day and then like the 5th week? Like if she walks in at 10, like what kind of things would they be doing? Would it be stuff that's like kind of browser related, like web, or would it be separate code? Just to give people an idea.
Yeah, so on her first day, she would probably do a project that introduced her to a program called Scratch. And Scratch is software that was developed by MIT specifically to teach kids the basics of coding without them having to write any syntax. So that, you know, when you don't get syntax errors, you're just dragging and dropping blocks together that create actions. So you can make games and animations and stuff, and you get like this immediate visual feedback, which the kids absolutely love. It's an amazing program. It's really powerful. And so we'd be like walking her through the interface of that, and then she would be making a cat follow a mouse and stuff, just to get used to it. Within 8 weeks, she'd be designing and building her own game in Scratch, having learnt a lot. It moves quite quickly. And then, say, another 10 weeks later, she'd have done more Scratch, but then she'd be moving on to HTML and CSS, and she'd probably be building her first static web page by then. Then another 8 weeks later, she'd be starting to learn Python.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is much more of a logic-based.
Yeah. So then, so the logic behind it was that with HTML and CSS, they could be like writing syntax without it being too hard going, and then they would get into Python, and obviously that's a bit more hard going.
That's pretty cool when they can actually design a website. I mean, like, this is a real world like application.
I feel really old because when I was 10, computers just weren't really a thing.
Dude, don't get me started when I was 10. So when I was thinking about this show today, when I was 10, I got an Apple II Plus computer, okay? Right. I'm turning 43 this year. And it was like basic, and remember, it had some really low-res graphics. And funny enough, one of the first things I programmed was putting these like blocks of graphics on the screen.
Yeah.
And then I moved on in school to where I learned Fortran, and then I learned Pascal, and then later I went and took assembly language at like UCSD, and I really got into that whole thing. But it was harder then because it was just a bunch of kind of nerds with computers, like whoever had the computer. But, you know, it was hard because there was no apps or browsers. It was really hard for kids to kind of get a grasp of it.
Yeah, there's loads of amazing tools now.
It's like, I think I see kids now, like, it's cool, I think, to be able to, like, say that you can do a web page and all that sort of stuff. Whereas when I was, only like nerds, they just had a bad reputation. You know, it's weird.
That's so good though, because it's changing the perception, and the perception of it is such a difficult thing to rail against.
Sure.
And it's actually adults that cause that problem. Right. So as you say, it's not the kids that don't think it's cool. Kids, 9 to 11-year-old kids think it's cool, but it's the adults being like, oh, it's for nerds and geeks, get outside and play football and stuff. And actually, that's really unhelpful. If you've got a child who's genuinely into it, being put off by a parent, and hopefully not a teacher, but I've heard in some cases that that's true. So.
You were just in Silicon Valley and you went down to Austin, and I was wondering, are the Yanks way ahead of us in this, or do they have a different relationship with kids and coding? I also know, I think you mentioned you had some South Koreans over checking out what you're doing. How does the UK stand to the rest of the world when it comes to this kind of education?
When I was in San Francisco, there were other programs that were similar to Code Club, but the majority of them were commercially based. So Code Club is free to the end user and free to the schools, and we have a very strict no charging for Code Club policy. So my explanation of Code Club in the States went fine until I explained that it was free, and then they were like, "What?
Why are you doing it?"
Yeah. So why are you?
Left the room. Right?
Yeah, and they were like, "Oh, goodbye." No, we just had to like think of a mechanic by which you could find the most enthusiastic children and still have them attend for free without it being like a paid-for childcare thing again. So that was interesting. And actually, I've been told it's the same issue in Asia as well. So Code Club Hong Kong will be, I think it's about to start its pilot fairly soon. And we've had the same discussion again about, well, the parents want to pay me. They're giving me money. What do I do with it? And I'm like, well, they can give you money, but not that doesn't guarantee their child a place at Code Club. It needs to be based on the enthusiasm of the kid, right? Because that's really important. And we have this premise that no one should have to pay for Code Club, and that we want to give all children the chance to learn to code if they want to, and their economic background shouldn't have a bearing on that, which some people disagree with.
When you're waiting for corporates to call you back and you're trying to apply to grants, did part of you ever think, there's got to be a business model here, especially you're surrounded in an area where it's all about the business model. I mean, it was hard not to be like, all right, £2 a person or something just to get this funded.
Or a donation. Do you have a donation button on your website?
Yeah, we have a donation button. It gets used. Yeah, that's good. I mean, there's a really obvious business model, but Linda and I feel really strongly about it, so we just won't change it. It's been suggested to me so many times, but we just don't believe in it. Like, we don't need to, right?
Obviously.
We already have corporate sponsors and grants, and yes, that was hard, but I don't think that we would have as many volunteers running clubs if we were charging for them, and therefore we wouldn't be having the effect that we do have. So I think it's the right decision.
It wouldn't have grown as fast if it was a
no, I don't think
profit-based entity. I'm just assuming.
I don't think the goodwill would be there in the same way.
Okay. So Silicon Valley, back to that, did you feel a different vibe there when it came to what you're trying to do? Or, what was it like when you visit places like that?
No, I got a really good vibe, but I should state that I was at the Rise Awards Recipients Summit. So the people who won the Google Rise Award, which we did in partnership with Technology Will Save Us. So we were there, and we were surrounded by, I think, 30 other organizations who all do a really similar thing. So I got really good vibes from that, and obviously Google are incredibly helpful. So that was really cool. And I met with lots of other people whilst I was out there as well. And I mean, I got a lot of support. So I felt like there was a lot of support, but also I don't really know that area particularly well, and it was my first visit. But it was good to start getting to know people and trying to see what the lay of the land was like. It was good to find out that volunteering is alive and well. In some countries it isn't. So that was good. I thought that might be a blocker. I thought that there might be so many programs like this already that there wouldn't be any need, but apparently there is, because most of them are commercial.
The commercial ones have the same curriculum, or is it completely different? Are they much quicker, slower, different?
I couldn't investigate to that extent.
Okay.
They all tend to have their own. Yeah, that's as far as I know.
Nice.
What's it like being in an industry where it's all about the Benjamins, to put it a different way, and especially Silicon Valley and here, and it's all about the IPO talk and where's the PayPal effect and all this stuff. And yet a lot of your time is done where you're trying to get people to donate their free time, and you're trying to, grow a different kind of organization. Is that strange?
Yeah, it is kind of weird. Although, the whole Silicon Roundabout community, I think, is probably one of the smallest groups of our volunteers. So our volunteers tend to be, well, this is kind of hard to generalize actually, because they're all so different. But obviously they're from all around the country, and the majority of them will work for somebody else. And also we work with a lot of corporates like Morgan Stanley, for example. We have a lot of volunteers from Morgan Stanley.
Okay. So they volunteer kind of as a company volunteer.
They'll
send you 20 people from Morgan Stanley.
Yeah, more like 60.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And they're not so evil after all, eh? It's pretty good.
Yeah, no, they're amazing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It doesn't feel like that to me. It doesn't feel like it's all about. It doesn't feel like we're trying to convince people who are all about money. I know they work at Morgan Stanley, but that's not
right. Yeah,
not like that. Yeah.
But I guess you kind of swim in the same circles where people are building business models or apps to sell things, and you're kind of not. But I guess you're getting lots of support because people kind of love everything that you're doing. So.
Yeah, we get a lot of support, and we've started Co-Club Pro, which required a business model, and a plan of sorts. So yeah, we're getting there. I don't know. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good having a lot of support.
And what's next for you guys? There's only so much saturation you can get, So what's like a year or 5 years from now? Or are you going to do something else at that point? Or do you just see co-clubs everywhere in the world in 5 years?
Yeah, but that's pretty much
yeah.
it. Yeah. That sounds a bit Pinky in the Brain, world domination, doesn't it? But
what are we going to do tonight?
Yeah, take over the world. So we have like this 25% goal for the end of 2015. Obviously 2015 is pretty close.
Next year.
It's the end of 2015, to be really clear about that, because that's a whole year's difference. And we will definitely be like extending that goal. So I can't say exactly what to yet, because we're still making a plan. But 50%, 100% would be amazing, probably unachievable, but we definitely want to aim higher. We're not done yet. And then Co-Club World. So I have a goal to have like Co-Club communities running in 50% of the world's countries by the end of 2018. And that's 100 fully functioning Co-Club communities. And that's a lot of people. So that should keep me busy and out of trouble.
How many staff do you need to do something like that?
Lots. Okay. I have to look. So we'll have to look after all of those people, and I'm trying to build like an organizational structure that can support 100 other communities. That's probably going to be quite significant. And then we want to continue to grow Co-Club Pro. Of course, the teacher churn is massive, so there'll always be teachers to train, and then that's what we're concentrating on at the moment. I don't think we'll be launching another thing within the next year, but I'm not going to promise that, because the team are amazing and they have lots of really exciting ideas, and I want to do them all. So. And
is this going to be a solo venture for you? Will you ever partner with a corporate or another organization like yourself in the world, or is this something that's going to be kind of the Co-Club mantra from here on out?
Oh, I don't know. I don't see why not. If the right company came along, then I don't see why not. But at the moment, we haven't. Not for delivery, although we have partners that provide a lot of volunteers for us. So in that respect, they help us with delivery.
Corporates like Morgan Stanley, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So. I can't really talk about that too much, because there's kind of some exciting things happening. But
I love it. I don't want any more details. We always ask everyone that comes here a few questions at the end. I'm going to hit you with them. Claire, if you can make a phone call to the 20-year-old Clare Sutcliffe and give that young lady a bit of advice, what would you tell her to do?
Get a haircut.
Wait, did you have long hair then?
Yeah, stupid. I had stupid hair. I have stupid hair now, but it was worse. What would I tell my 20-year-old self?
How long ago was that? Not that long ago.
10 years. 11 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now you're asking hard questions.
Sorry.
Learn to wear high heels probably would be a good one, because otherwise people still think you're 20.
Were you coding at 20?
No.
You were designing.
Yeah. Learn to code. Right.
There we go. That was a leading question.
Yeah, it was, right. Would that really be your advice?
I really wish I had. It's one of the reasons why I started Co-Club. So when I was at uni, they taught us action script, and it made me cry. So I was like massively put off. But I love designing.
It's horrible code, right?
Yeah.
It's just horrible.
But I love designing, and I love the interactivity of it, which is probably why I ended up becoming user experience designer in the end. And I loved all of that. I don't think I would change any of it. I don't know.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
On that same note, advice you would give to the 20-year-old that's listening kind of around the world that wants to get involved either in the tech scene, or in something like Co-Club, what would you tell them to do?
I would tell them to work for something they believe in. Otherwise, they won't. Life's just not really worth living, is it, if you're not doing something that you love? I know that's really easy to say, and some people don't have those opportunities, but if you do have the opportunity to do something, to work on something that you love and care about and that you think can change the world, then you should do it, and don't be scared like I almost was.
Yeah, but you did it. So it's like, it's easy, not easy for you to say, but you really did it. I mean, you just started that when you were working somewhere else. You started this venture, right?
Yeah, but I almost didn't, so.
Okay. So, the last bit of that is, what is the best advice you've ever received, either personal or business?
Keep going.
Yeah, that's good. It's always the one that stumps people.
It's the simplest one.
Yeah. Keep going. Was that business or personal advice?
Business.
Okay. Business.
Yeah.
That's good. Last bit is, we're in this Silicon, roundabout community here, and you've been here for many years. It's obviously changing every year. I mean, Jesus, Old Street Station's changing every week now. It's all the different colors and all this stuff. What's your read on the changes that have happened to London in the last couple of years, and where do you see it kind of going? Just in general, what do you think of the scene?
I feel like there's a lot of building sites around here, which is really
a lot of cranes.
Annoying.
It is annoying, yeah.
Well, it's annoying for us because there's one right outside our window, outside of Tech Hub's window at the back. There's a big building site. I don't know. I kind of feel like it's going to be all really shiny, and I think that would be a shame. And I can kind of see people just like moving out of the way, like either up to Dalston or out to Whitechapel and stuff. And I think that it will kind of dissipate the energy which a lot of people thrive off. And it's certainly been useful to Code Club, especially in the early days when like I would hang out at Silicon Drink about every Friday, drinking far too much with those beards. And I kind of feel like when it gets all shiny and full of skyscrapers, we might lose that bit, which I think would be sad because it does feel a bit like a village, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Even with a scrappy roundabout in the middle, which they painted. That was cute.
Yeah, but it's slowly like kind of changing, as you said.
I think so. I feel like that's the case. I don't know that for sure.
And will you stay here in London, or will you move potentially to another city?
Code Club?
Yeah.
I think Code Club will probably base itself in London, purely because the majority of our partnerships have their headquarters here, and going to see people is easier when you're in the same city. But we are starting to recruit regional coordinators so that we can have people based in regions all around the UK, so that we can spread out our efforts a bit more. Because when you live somewhere, it's just kind of easier to do that work, and you kind of accidentally focus your effort around that area. And we want to make sure that we can offer Code Club equally all around the country wherever there's interest. But I think Code Club will probably stay in London.
Sounds like I need to step up and volunteer some of my time.
I feel left out that I don't code.
Really?
I need to learn how to code.
I think it's time to step up. I mean,
I'm going to step up.
You are, yeah?
I think I'm going to do it.
Because we ask this question like every week, and I'm sure 50% of the people say learn to code. Yeah. That's their advice. I mean, 50%, Jesus.
50% of people can't be wrong, can they?
Probably not.
Probably not. So,
half right.
And I guess you ultimately need to really get involved yourself, because I'm like, oh, who's going to teach my 10-year-old to code? Well, maybe I should just step up and go in there and do some volunteering. So
you should volunteer for Code Club.
I should, right?
You'll love it. Okay. What volunteers say is like the most rewarding part of their week.
How qualified does a volunteer need to be?
Yeah, that's a good question.
How qualified do you currently feel?
In coding, 0.
Okay, then more than that.
Than 0?
I feel pretty good.
It's mainly about the confidence, right? So what I would suggest is that you look at...
I know nothing about coding.
Okay.
0.
Then the enthusiasm is great, and maybe teamed with someone who can code, like your good friend here.
There we go. I can be your
you'd
helper.
Make a dream team because you could learn at the same time.
There we go.
Okay. All right. Watch this space. We might be doing this.
Sure.
Yeah.
Go and film it as well. These kids are really funny.
On film. Yeah, they are. If other people want to get involved and either volunteer at Code Club or get their children in their local ones, what's the easiest way to do it?
The best way to do it is to go and have a look at the Code Club website, which is codeclub.org.uk. And check out the information for parents, for venues, and for volunteers, depending on which one you are. And have a good read if you want to volunteer about what would be expected of you and what a club is like, and go and have a look at the projects and see if you like them and that kind of thing. If you're a school, go and have a look at the venues page. Again, what's expected of you, what a club is like. And if you're a parent, how to get your school involved, and how to help them find a volunteer. And volunteers and venues can find each other via the website as well. So
fantastic.
The website does a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
Claire, you're extremely humble for the organization you put together, and these numbers are crazy. So thanks so much for coming on and telling us about it. It's really impressive. You seem like you're going to be doing this seriously for the next few years. You seem to have a serious determination in you.
Yes.
So I wouldn't want to get in her way. So all the best with more corporate sponsors and all that stuff. And Colin and I are going to step up and look to get involved, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right.
Promises.
Fantastic. If you're listening to us on iTunes, you can look at our lovely faces on our channel on YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter at SiliconReal. You can send us emails at hello@siliconreal.com. We just had 2 awesome interns contact you today.
Great. Yeah, you know, a few interns contacted me maybe a week and a half ago, and yeah, you know, they're going to step up and start helping. So, you know, really, we're doing, you know, everyone loves what we're doing. We're just, we need to get it out there more. So we need some help. So come drop us an email and we'll make it happen.
Yeah, it's a fantastic way to get involved, and you can have firsthand knowledge with awesome people like Claire, you know, or Andy, or, you know, Dan from Songkick. All those cool people just come help us out. It's a lot of fun. And, you know, we say it's about the people here at Silicon Real. We love the stories behind the website. So, Claire, all the best, and thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
All right, guys, take care.
Cheers.
Apple was a real mess. The first year I was there, they lost $1 billion. No one thought they were going to last more than 2 or 3 years before they were done. And it was chaotic. They were selling like 26 lines of computers. Nobody could tell you what they all were and why they were different. And Steve came back and very quickly became the CEO. And within a matter of a few months, he turned that company around. In fact, the first year after he came back, they made like $800 million. He basically took that company and like shook it and refused to let it die. He was a really difficult man on a personal level. He's one of the most unpleasant human beings I've ever met. He was a genius. I mean, his intuition for what made great products. I've never seen anyone operating at that level.